What's going on, everyone? This is ODC. It's me, and back with another action figure review. This is my review of the DC Collectibles, DC Comics Icons. This is Green Arrow. This is figure 3 in Wave 1. Looks really cool. I'm really excited about getting this. I'm glad we got Green Arrow so early, in an early wave. I kind of wish we would have got him, Batman and Superman in this first wave. Pretty happy with Deadman. He looks really great. If you want to check out that review, it's in my video library. You can check it out. But looking at this packaging, it's a new style packaging, but very similar in certain aspects to your regular DC Collectibles packaging. I'll just bring in someone for an example here. It looks pretty similar. It is different, but a little bit similar. So there you go with that. On the side, it just says figure number 3, and this says DC Comics Icons, Green Arrow. And it says the Longbow Hunters. On the back, it shows the figures in the first wave, which is Batman, Deadman, Mr. Miracle, and Green Arrow. And then it shows the figures on the back. Okay, let's get this guy opened up, and we'll be right back. Okay, and we're back with Green Arrow out of packaging, and I gotta say he looks really good. Very clean. Don't really have much of an issue with his bow or his arrows. They are separately sculpted, and they do fit into his quiver very nicely, to be honest with you. And you can get some really good poses with him, getting ready to bow this arrow out. This is a string here, so you can manipulate this string in between his fingers here to kind of get the illusion that the arrow's ready to go. I just kind of tried to hurry up and get a pose going, but he looks really good. And he does come with separate hands. Let me just sit him down here for a second. It does come with 2 extra fist hands. And I think they look pretty good. So there you go. And then it comes with the one gripping hand and then a specific gripping hand to hold an arrow. Whether you want to have him kind of relaxed and kind of holding it like this, and then maybe having him hold his arrow in his hand like so. You could have that. I mean, you can pretty much get him in any pose you want. I think the big thing that these figures are missing is that upper thigh swivel. That's kind of a big problem for me when it comes to certain figures. I feel like they really need that upper thigh swivel. But he still does have a boot swivel, so if you want to have him like holding the arrow like so, or well, that looks a little bit unnatural, but you get my drift here. He can hold the arrows. He does come with 2 different kinds of arrows. He's got a single shot arrow, and then he has the double shot arrow, which is sculpted together. So if you wanted that, you can do that. I do have to say that this is really nice with the feathers right here. These are actually sculpted in lines, which is actually really cool. Then they are sculpted together, like I said. But I think it looks really good. And here's the single arrow. Focus. There we go. There's actually some lines sculpted into the tip of the arrow, which looks really good. And it can all fit into his quiver nicely. Perfect. And I think it looks really good. Very natural. It doesn't look too crowded in his quiver. That was kind of the letdown of the DC Universe Classics, was the fact that his bow looked just so cheap and just ugh. But we'll get to that in a second. Talking about the bow here, like I said, it is a string, so I do prefer that. Looks much more natural than plastic. Plastic just looks terrible with bows. I think it looks really good. It's got a nice light brown here and then a little bit of a darker brown for the handle, and I think it differentiates the bow nicely from the grip. Taking a look at the figure itself, his quiver just kind of sits on his back and it's attached, it's kind of glued. It seems like it's glued and pegged into his back. So this is not removable, which I'm fine with. That's fine. I don't need to take that off. I think the face sculpt came out really well. He does have hair underneath the sculpt, which I think looks really good. And this is a nice, soft, pliable, rubbery type material, so you can pull this back if you want to kind of have that back, or if you actually want to have him have this off. You could have that. You could take this off, and this under collar piece is actually sculpted into the hood. So if you do end up taking this off, that collar piece would come off too. So I'm not sure what the sculpting is like underneath here. You can kind of get a glimpse of it under there. It looks like there's a little bit of painted line under there, as you can see right there. You see the line right there. I don't know. I mean, if you want to have an unmasked, then I would say probably buy 2 of these. Or if you're very careful with an X-Acto knife and some hot water, you could probably take this off and then kind of have an unmasked version and a masked version. But I'm going to leave him alone for now. But the sculpt of the hair looks pretty good. I think the face came out very well. I think this is my favorite Ollie, to be honest with you. As far as the articulation goes, these are pretty new, and they do have different articulation than what we're used to. I think a lot of people were expecting Marvel Legends articulation, and when that didn't occur, then people are a little bit like, oh, why the hell not? Because they're 2 totally different companies. Maybe you should realize that. But anyway, I digress off that. The head does swivel side to side, and if you do pull this back like so, he can move his head up just a little bit. He can look down a little bit. He can kind of, let's see if we can pivot side to side with the hood on. Yep, pivot side to side. Let's see, we got some job turkeys up in here. We got a little bit of job turkey. Just a little. And then we got the arms that go up about that far on both sides. And they do go down. He does have a bicep swivel. Double jointed elbow, really good there. Wrist swivel, and the wrist hinge, which goes in and out. And then we have your upper torso swivel here, and it does pivot side to side just a little bit. And we have the ab crunch, which is down below, so you actually get a little bit extra range of motion with this, even when you use the ab crunch, which is a little bit lower. So you can, if you want to have that posed back like that, and then kind of pose the ball joint back like so, and then push this forward, you can do that. I might want the ab crunch a little bit higher, just so it's a little bit more of a natural ab crunch as opposed to being so low like this. And maybe swap these 2 out. Maybe put the ab crunch a little bit higher, and then make the swivel down here with the regular waist. I think that would improve the figure tremendously. But I still don't have a problem with it. It's not the worst thing in the world. He can do the splits very well, like so, and then his legs can go forward and a little bit back, but not so much. Like I said, this does not have a upper thigh swivel, which I really just dislike. That's a big knock, I think, for me against figures that don't have upper thigh swivels. But he does have double jointed knees, and where it counts is he does have a boot swivel, which does still help. So you can still pose him nicely. He does have an ankle hinge, and he does have an ankle pivot, and 2 peg holes at the bottom of his feet. I would say I'm still pretty happy with this figure, and I think that he, sculpt-wise, I mean, it's pretty close. I'll just bring in the DC Universe Classics here. Sculpt-wise, I would say, and as you can see, these are 2 totally different scales here. I like the sculpt. I'll just do sculpt first. Sculpt. I don't know. I think I like the icons a little bit better, even though there's a lot of sculpting going on here. I don't like this hood as much as I like this hood. This looks like more of a natural hood to me. I don't like that the quiver is sculpted. It would have been nice to not have such a small sculpted quiver. I mean, look at the size of the Icon's quiver, and he's a smaller figure compared to the DC Universe Classics quiver, and that's much smaller. It just doesn't look natural. Doesn't look like it can hold that many arrows, so it's just a little bit awkward for me. As far as the rest of the figure, this is actually a really solid figure. I don't dislike this figure. It's just that I feel like this offers a little bit more as far as sculpt goes, and it looks a little bit more natural. I know these are different looks for the character. I understand that. I'm not saying comparing the looks. What I'm comparing is sculpt and just how natural this figure looks to me as Oliver. So. And especially this hood, this cut joint looks just very odd, and it's so you can turn the head with the hood. It just looks a little bit odd to me, like it's not supposed to be there. It kind of looks like it's attached to his head. Like I said, still a good figure. I just like this one a little bit better. Paint apps, I would say I like this a little bit better as well. I like the greens a little bit better. This has got a very almost like a lime green, as opposed to this is got mixed with a natural green with almost like a hunter green. Maybe not as dark as a hunter green, but close to it. Where this has got some darker greens and then a very light green, which I don't know if I really prefer. But I mean, you're comparing to me, it's like comparing apples and oranges. You're comparing Mattel versus DC Collectibles. This is two totally different companies. You really shouldn't compare the two, but I'm just doing it because it's the same. It's a different version of this character. So I like both figures, but if I have to choose one, I'm going to go with the Icons, to be honest with you. I just like this Icons line a lot. And I feel like it's a little bit better, even though it's kind of lacking with certain points of articulation. I feel like it's still the better figure to me. But that's to each their own. I'm sure a lot of people are like, you're crazy, I like DC Universe Classics. But I mean, definitely when it comes down to comparing bows, this is the superior bow. This just looks cheap. I mean, this is how it came out of package with these stress marks all over it. And the arrow is sculpted onto the bow. It just doesn't look natural at all. It just looks cheap to me. So I mean, you have this, and you have separate bows, arrows. Arrows you can take out in and out of the quiver. I just feel like this is the superior figure as he falls over, to me at least. And he does come with extra hands. He just comes with a little bit more than the classics. If I can get this damn thing in his hand. Jesus. There we go. To me, it just looks a lot better. And I even like the fact that they sculpted the hair. It looks just so good. So if you want that option, you have it if you want to take this hood off. So there it is. There's the comparison. Like I said, I do still like both of them, but I feel like I don't know. This looks a little bit more natural to me, especially his physique. He looks a little bit too buffed up to me. This looks a little bit more like how Oliver would look. So a really nice sculpting on the boots as well, with the strings hanging from the boot. I think that looks really cool too. So I really do like it. I like this figure a lot, to be honest with you. And I know a lot of fans have turned their back kind of on this line, but I don't know. For me, I'm pretty happy with it. I'm going to keep collecting these. Does come with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 accessories. So that's pretty good for me. I mean, accessory-wise, we hardly get any of those anymore. But I don't know. I would definitely recommend this figure. 2 thumbs up. And let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thank you for watching as always. And I'll see you guys on the flip side.